Well, Boruto fans, it looks like this whole child-parent day is actually going to be transforming into its very own arc. Strap yourselves in as Choji and his daughter Cho-Cho enter a ridiculous and over-the-top eating contest. Greetings, my friends. It's time to take a look at another episode of Boruto Naruto Next Generations. But before we do, I'm going to give a shameless plug into a video that I just worked on. It is my review of Dragon Ball Super Broly, the latest Dragon Ball movie. I worked my ass off on this video, and I would really appreciate it if you guys would actually check that out, share it with your friends, like it, all that YouTube bullshit. Let's go ahead and jump into this episode right here, which I have to be perfectly honest with you, I was almost ready to completely fillet and hate this episode. I did not like the concept of it. I thought this whole child-parent day thing was just going to be a singular episode all about Naruto bonding with his daughter Himawari, but no, it looks like it's going to continue, and it looks like we're going to be focusing on different teams and pairings of child and parent. And this episode is mostly going to focus on Choji and his daughter Cho-Cho, whose defining characteristics are that they are fat and they love to eat, and they completely run with that in this episode by having them enter an eating contest. They're also going to be joined by a couple of other child-parent pairings, such as Sai and his son Inojin. We're also going to be seeing Shikadai and Shikamaru, which is funny because basically we're seeing all of Ino Shikacho join in here. We also have Rock Lee and Metal Lee, but ultimately that doesn't lead anywhere, as the entire running joke of Metal Lee is that he's the exact opposite of his father. He has no confidence, and before the eating competition even begins, he ends up throwing up a giant rainbow of ridiculousness. It is actually kind of funny, I have to admit, and the main thread of this episode actually comes from this old woman who owns a restaurant which is basically being completely destroyed by Choji's immense hunger, and she wants to get revenge against him by making him lose this eating contest. And she does so by hiring these two guys, these wandering eating warriors who go by the name of Glut and Tun. Yes, you heard me right. I have to admit, when they introduced Glut and Tun, it was the part of the episode where I'm like, okay, I think I'm completely checked out now. I don't think there's any way that I can actually like this episode, but it still managed to be actually kind of funny watching them go through this big competition. And of course, it all comes down to Choji and Cho-Cho versus Glut and Tun. And it all gets resolved, of course, by eating copious amounts of food. Just like the last episode, which focused on Naruto bonding with his daughter Himawari, this episode did a pretty good job of showing Cho-Cho and Choji actually hanging out, and I have to say that they are a really great pair, if only for the fact that they are very different from their mother, who again continues to be a fiery temptress of awesomeness. Most of the episode stems from the fact that Cho-Cho is trying to find out what the redeeming qualities of Choji are, especially when compared to his wife, for the fear that if he continues down this path of constantly eating everything like goddamn Pac-Man, she's going to end up leaving him. And of course, by the end of the episode, everything sort of wraps up all super hunky-dory, and we never really get to find out what the redeeming qualities of Choji are, aside from the fact that he's a super happy, pudgy guy, which is basically what he's been throughout the course of the entire series, so sunrise, sunset. So what's the rundown on this episode of Boruto Naruto Next Generations? I don't know if I liked or hated this episode at all, which is why I'm ultimately just going to have to give it a 3 out of 5. For me, it was just kind of an average episode of the series. There was nothing too bad about it to actually completely hate the episode, but there were still some moments where I found myself genuinely laughing at the overall ridiculousness of it all. I especially love the fact that after the first major part of the competition, in between the eating portions, both Choji and Cho-Cho actually decide to take a break and have a snack eating potato chips. How these people have not had heart attacks at this point is beyond me. Chalk it up to super crazy ninja powers, or let's just face it, they're just cartoon characters. They can do this shit. I will say this episode made it clear that we're probably going to get a couple more episodes which are dedicated to this whole child-parent holiday thing. I will say, though, that I'm very interested for the next episode, as it's going to be Sasuke and Sarada, and considering we barely see these characters ever interact at all, it's something that I'm actually kind of anxious to see. We've already seen a lot of Choji and Cho-Cho interacting with one another, and again, it's basically just more of the same joke. These dudes like to fucking eat. But Sasuke and Sarada's relationship is still a little mysterious, and I can't wait to see them in a more relaxed setting where they're not constantly having to dodge shuriken going into their faces. And that, my friends, is the end of my review. Like I said, I'm giving it a 3 out of 5. Just an average episode. There was enough funny stuff here to make me actually kind of enjoy the episode, but I can honestly say, just like the last one, It's the type of episode that I'm never going to rewatch. I don't see me ever going back to watch this episode again. When I ever pick this up on DVD or Blu-ray, whatever the format's going to be, I'm going to promptly skip it and move to the next arc of the series, but I'd like to hear different. Maybe some of you did enjoy this episode a lot more than me. Maybe you absolutely hated it. Let's get a discussion going about this episode in the comments section below. Thank you all for watching this review. Like I said at the beginning, make sure to check out my review of Dragon Ball Super Broly. Share it with all your friends. Just shotgun that shit all over the place. I need a lot of people to see this review. Like I said, I worked really hard on that video, and I really wanted to get as much exposure as possible. So there it is. Thank you all for watching. I'll see you all next time. And as always, stay down, baby.